This episode is brought to you by High Point Market. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise.
Welcome to the Design Dash podcast. I'm Laura Umansky, your co-host, here with Melissa Grove. And today on the podcast, we're joined by someone we know and admire, Tracee Murphy. Tracee is the CEO and principal designer of Trademark Interiors, a multi-million-dollar interior design firm, as well as the founder of the Designer Launch. Tracee is a dynamic speaker and mentor who's passionate about elevating the interior design industry, from teaching the psychology of design, which I know we are all going to be into, and selling luxury to guiding designers through conflict management. We've had the pleasure of collaborating with Tracee at High Point Market in the stunning Vanguard showroom for our Design Dash workshops, and we're excited to dive deeper into her insights. Thanks for joining us, Tracee.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you ladies. It's so much fun hanging out with you.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll just dive right in. And so, we know each other. We've collaborated together for, last few High Point Markets. So we've definitely spent some quality time. But for those who don't know you yet, can you share just a bit about your journey from, go way back. It's up to you. But leading this multi-million-dollar firm to starting the Designer Launch, walk us through that journey.
Yes. Well, it's so funny because I always call myself a processor. I am a thinker. I need a minute to sleep on it and do things. And I call my journey very similar to that. It was one I really had to sleep on, and it evolved over time. So starting my design world, my design life in psychology. So first degree is in psychology. It's what I fell in love with. But then the actual reality of working in the field of psychology was too much for me. I just was not emotionally prepared for that at the time. As we know, it's super complicated and emotional. So I feel like you need a lot of maturity to kind of navigate that. At the same time, I was buying my first house. I fell in love with design. And then I was like, okay, this is really my path. I went back to school, did all the things, and then started this 25-year journey building the business. And, along the way, I was like, yeah, I have this degree in psychology. I love it, but I wonder what I'll ever use it for. And then, the light bulb goes off, year two, oh, yeah, we need this. We need all the psychology tips and tricks along the way to navigate this industry and our clients and all the things. So, it really just kind of evolved and started peeking in here and there into the design business, but it's helped me immensely in dealing with client conflict, dealing with sales, dealing with, conflicting personalities and all of the things. So over time, I've just started putting it all together so I can help other people use some of these tips and tricks in psychology to kind of navigate the business and, not go crazy.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you can't go crazy yourself when you're trying to help out your clients. I think that when I first got into this industry, of course, as we all do, we think it's so glamorous. Oh, it's so glamorous working in other people's homes. It's going to be beautiful. But you mentioned before, there's conflict, but there's also a huge sales component as well. And I don't know if we talk about that enough, is that I feel like interior designers are also salespeople. You have to be, right?
For sure. And you're spot on, because we all get into it and think it's something really different than what it is. And, the number of decisions that have to be made. And, we're wearing so many hats all day long. And that isn't really translated over to the clients most of the time. They don't really understand the breadth and scope of what we do every day and how truly challenging. So it's extraordinary how some insight into sell first and into some sales process and conflict management will really help you navigate different situations, whether it's your vendors, your clients, your contractors, your team, whatever it is. So it's very invaluable.
Yeah. I want to talk about conflict management since Melissa brought it up and you brought it up. So you, and just a quick aside, you did a presentation at High Point when we were there about conflict management for interior designers. And at the end in the Q&A, I think just to highlight how much conflict resolution is a skill that we all need as interior designers. At the end of this presentation, during the Q&A, there was a designer in the audience that asked about, working with different personalities, builders specifically, who may be of a different generation, maybe they're men, and they may not listen um, to or want to hear everything a young female designer has to say. So how do you resolve that? And after she asked this question, there was a man that fit that description, older gentleman, builder, uh, right behind her, who got really upset about the question and just like stood up and made a scene. And it was, really just reinforced the whole point. So that's all long story to ask, like, conflict resolution for interior designers. How important is this? And how do we even begin to start knowing how to deal with situations like that one, for example?
It's so funny. I just ran into the Vanguard team in Atlanta and they were talking about that. They were like, oh my God, remember when when that guy did that? And Laura, kudos to you. That was very well said, because sometimes what happened there is a little hard to describe, to use the correct words and descriptions of what happened there. But it was really like, did I pay him to come in like right on cue? Thank you very much for making the point about exactly what we were saying. It was like, thank you, sir. Have a nice day. you know, as you just said, like they don't want to be listened to. And there is this stigma, or has been generationally speaking, about the industry and who's in charge, in air quotes, who's in charge. And for designers to really be able to hold their own and stand grounded and take control of their projects, and also stand up to those differing opinions, right? And so to be able to have some tools in your pocket where maybe you're not the most experienced person in the room, but you definitely have a say and you're fighting for your clients and the project and what you want to do. And it's really important to be able to communicate in a way that's effective and that can hopefully diffuse those situations. And as we know, they all can't be diffused, but hopefully with some of these tools and understanding how we react to conflict, personally will help us navigate that and help us like bring that down a notch. And we're all on the same team, we're working together, and we're just trying to get the problem solving going. But it's definitely one of those easy.
So, like, what's one way that we could just keep in our back pocket as designers? Like you said, maybe not the most experienced, maybe you are super experienced and you're just not confident stepping into that role as guide. What's one tool we can keep in our back pocket to diffuse like a tense situation like that?
Sure. I think first and foremost, it's just some self-awareness about you not jumping into that conflict in the heat of it. It's, easy to kind of hear somebody react and then you get elevated and react back. One easy thing is always just like stay calm, deal with facts. And, a little less psychology kind of in that statement, but there's actually a lot telling you about yourself, how you react, and if you can learn skill to be able to like stay professional and fact based and level headed, then that gives you the upper hand in the situation. So, let the man stand up and get mad and storm out of the room. We're not going to follow. We're going to let that diffuse. We're going to let that settle down. We're going to just go back and approach that gentleman again and say, okay, well, let's talk about the project now and what we're actually working on. And here's where I'm coming from. And whether you're, a baby designer or a very experienced designer, you still have a stake in the project. So it's important to just kind of like, keep your cool and, take the high road. I guess is the easy way to say it. Take the high road.
Got to pick your battles, I think. But you make a very good point. Focus on the situation. Don't focus on the person, right?
Right.
And because you're right. Just stick to the facts. That's all you can do, right? You can't really control if they're going to blow up about it at that point, right?
You can't control how anybody is going to act. And that's with everything in life, right? So, again, understanding how you are and how you approach conflict, but, keeping communication open and direct, really keeping tabs on how that's going. Make sure you have your clients back. Focusing on team forward. All of those things are going to help just kind of like settle down the situation a little bit. So hopefully bring everybody back to the table.
Yeah, we talk a lot in our podcast, and of course with other designers in the community too, about the importance of trust and developing trust. So I'd love to know some of your tips for that, because I know it's so important for us to develop trust with our clients. But even in the situations that we're talking about, conflicting with maybe partners, we need to develop trust there too.
Yes. Wow. We could talk for hours about that. I'd love to hear how you guys do it too. But we start, like you said, it's a development and it's something that we want to happen right away, but it doesn't. Very rarely. So, in order to develop or to help it grow, I always suggest that we talk about it and we use that word all the time. And as kind of a reinforcement method, like you have children, like when they're toddlers, and just like that positive reinforcement. And it's pretty much the same thing, but we're just, doing it in terms of trust. So, in our business, we say that weekly in our project updates. Thank them for trusting us, trusting our process. Um, and I talk about that in our initial interviews with potential clients and the importance of that. And but the continue talking about it and reinforcing like decisions that you've made and past experiences and things like that. But I think like the number one thing in developing it is talking about it. And then also like follow through weekly, like do what you say you're gonna do. And then remind them, casually, nicely, and like, you know, in the project update or whatever, that you do what you do and you do trust me and trust us. We are trustworthy.
Right.
And, it's kind of a long road, but we try to shorten that runway a little bit by, reinforcing that message. How do you guys do it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question, because like Melissa poses it and I'm like, God, how do we do it? Because a lot of times it feels like it's innate, right? It's just something that you're doing over time. And you're right. It's do what you say you're going to do. Tell
Right.
them what you're going to do. So it's also communication. And for us, it's very much like, for me, it's orienting them to our process too. You mentioned process. For us, process is so important because that's what gets us from the concept to actual physical reality. Um, and that's the goal, right? It's like concept all day, beautiful design, all ideas all day, but we want it to actually be realized. And so I think for us, it's more like transparency and communication, but also transparency about the process, where we are, where we've been, and then what's coming up. And I'm very open about the pain associated with a project. Like, it's not always unicorns and rainbows, right? There is that pit of despair in the middle of the project that sucks for everyone. And so I think when they hear you talk about like you said, it's glamorous. When they hear you talk about the unglamorous part and the reality of it, I think that transparency wins trust. Um,
It does. I think that's a really good point. And do you like the Pit of Despair Princess Bride reference? Like that movie, I love that movie.
and the pit of despair can last for a while depending on the length of the project. So that's when communication is super important.
I mean, it happens a lot. And, obviously the golden clients are the ones that go through it and they're like, oh, that's terrible news, but we trust that you're
Right.
handling it and everything's going to be great. And like, those are the clients that, you grab onto and you're like, how many houses do you have that you work on? Because we want all of them.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. And we're in this pit together. We're not against each other down here. We're not like, I don't know, you brought up the Princess
Well,
Bride. Like, what
what
were
it
those
sounds
as
like
huge rats?
you guys are doing from a design perspective, we do a lot. I mean, I can only speak from the marketing perspective, but it's setting an expectation and then meeting that expectation and hopefully exceeding it. So, yes, telling them that there's going to be some ups and downs, and so that okay, you've told me that there's going to be ups and downs. I know
Right.
what to expect. Now I am not going to be surprised when that happens, and I've learned to trust you, I think, because you are preparing me for that. And on the marketing side, we do that, before these clients turn into clients. We're showing them that this is how we work. This is what you can expect in working with us. This is how beautiful your interior is going to be at the end of it. And so I think that when we meet or exceed their expectations throughout, which is sometimes a 4-year process, I think that's a good way to build that trust.
Yeah. And that, I mean, it is amazing. 'Cause when you're talking about projects that can go, up to 4 years long, like you're talking about, that's a super long time. There's a lot of relationships that don't last that long. So, it's a long time to kind of navigate that and to go through the ups and downs like we do in all of our relationships. And, the dream is to be down in a pit of despair, like holding hands and still like, let's have a drink and we're going to be friends. And I can't wait to see this on the other side. But I think the hardest part of that is navigating when you don't have that, when the
Mm.
clients get down there and they're just like not happy and not being respectful and, almost like bullying behavior
Yeah.
about, how things happen. And, I have to check myself too with my reaction sometimes because I think as designers and business owners, we take it so personally. We love these projects. We absolutely have our hearts in them. We're so excited about them. We can see the vision at the end. We can't wait to get there. We want our clients to be as happy as we are. And when they're not, it's a little disappointing for everyone on the team. So when that's not handled well or received well, if there's a delay happens, it's a little unfortunate, but just kind of remaining in that positive attitude and reinforcing the team message and that, you know, the end is in sight. There's light at the end of the tunnel and it's better than
Yeah.
On that note, do you have any examples of when you maybe lost trust of a client? Like a cautionary tale. I have some for sure that I'm happy to share. But I'd love to know from you, like, is there a time where you're like, dude, I screwed that up. I lost their trust. This is what I did. This is what I should have done differently.
yes. I mean, I probably, if I've been in business 25 years, it's for sure. I have examples
So
of,
many.
I know. How many are there? There's a few, and there's some on two sides of the coin. Like one where it's like that, like I probably didn't handle that well, and that I would say those instances were pretty more frequently seen in my early years because those were lessons that I had to learn,
Yeah.
and
You can't be
um,
told about them. You have to just go through it.
you have to go through it. You have to go through it. And over time, it evolved into the weekly project updates and what to expect documents. And, it evolved into like massive communication and transparency. It's what that
Mhm.
evolved to. So those examples are less sharp in my mind as the examples that are, I thought this was a very trustworthy situation and just couldn't get through the pit. And then it's like, I don't understand. And then I go back and I'm trying like, how should I have handled this differently? Should I have been, had sat down and made a video for them and made sure they read it? Because what I have found recently is that we send some of this information, but they don't read it. We're sending like, what to expect and what's
Right.
happening.
Clients
Very
are busy and yeah.
So then it becomes like, okay, now how do we communicate more on that level to try to get them to, hey, we sent that. Did you read it? Are we good? More face to face time. So I think just having that personal touch, the more one on one time. I spent last Saturday calling clients to check in and see how we're doing. Um, just to make sure we're okay because we were in a bit of uh, a lull with a client or two with
Mm.
timing on construction and some reselections. And that construction is a beast, and hard for people to kind of get through those hard lumps during construction delays.
So that one-on-one communication, you feel like that direct communication solves it.
I think, like we were talking in the studio, the team, the lead designer is really for our business, the one who's communicating weekly and really on top of all the details in the project. And sometimes it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
here's the owner love. And I'm like, oh, that's me. Okay. I'll call. And sometimes I just feel like probably where I, you know, can improve on that is to make sure that I'm putting a personal touch on a little bit more. I just have
Yeah.
such a great team. And sometimes I'm like, got it. They have it rolling. I see what's happening. I know what's happening, but I'm not connecting with the client.
Hmm.
And I think, it is a very personal. experience and journey. So
Well, are you doing all the business development for your firm? Yeah, so you're that first point, like, they established that relationship with you first, like, I think sometimes to get back to where you were at the beginning, and that's so exciting and fun, you have to be that touch point.
I know. I think that's exactly right. And even though like I'm super clear, I'm always saying it's a team, most of your communication will be with the lead and not all the, the meetings and the presentations and everything, but that one-on-one, sometimes they just need a love. They need a hug.
Right.
They need a hug.
Some of
Oh,
them do, I'm
Lord.
sure.
So you're running your design firm and it sounds similar to the way that we're structured at Laura U Design Collective, where I'm doing the business development. I'm that first point of contact for new clients. And then we have this amazing team that steps in and they're the point of contact throughout the project. But you are running a sizable firm. You're doing multiple projects at one time. And on the flip side, like us, you're also mentoring designers. So you have the designer launch. So, I mean, I know why we do this, and I have a feeling it's similar reason for you, but tell me about that jump over to mentorship.
If you're a designer, then you know that High Point is the epicenter for all things interior design. All your favorite furniture vendors are there, your favorite designers, manufacturers, tastemakers, trendsetters. Market happens every April and October, and we hope you'll register and attend. We're there each market, and we're always finding something new. We know you will too. Check out highpointmarket.org for more information.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's really exciting for me. It's such a feel good project for me and something I feel really passionate about. And I think over 25 years of navigating this and realizing how hard it is, I didn't have the mentors that are available now or the resources that are available now to kind of help me in my younger days and um, and the experience. And once I, kind of found a couple mentors that really helped me with real life things, it made a huge difference in my career. So kind of as things were going, and I'm like, what's next? What's the next chapter? What's the feel good moment? The design is feel good, right? It's beautiful, it's stunning. Um, but just a little bit more and what's the next chapter and how can I enrich what we're doing and share my experience and what I learned and all of that. So it evolved slowly and it pretty much started with CE classes. It's like, oh, these CEUs just aren't doing it for me. I need some real meat, like, the juicy stuff. What's the good stuff? And I was like, well, I'll just write a couple classes, and see how that goes. And then it snowballed and it's evolved. And I'm really excited and happy about the psychology aspect and sharing that and really infusing our, running of a business with psychology and into the designs too, but really bringing that to the forefront to make sure that our businesses are run like really wholeheartedly, happily, and happy, healthy teams, happy clients. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, but
Yeah, that's a tall order.
order, it's a very tall order. But, every little bit will help. And, basically my goal is to just help to elevate the industry so
Yeah.
that there's like better acceptance and understanding of what's happening from a client viewpoint too. So maybe they can have a better understanding of where we're coming from and what we're doing. And we go away from, oh, designer, that must be so fun. Get that and into more like we're looked at the same level as the architect our same in our same world, you know.
I I love that comment, "Oh, designer, it must be so fun." And it is. And so my answer to that is always like sometimes, but it still is, like you said, on the same level as the architect, the builder in a project. It's a serious job. And so I think that the mentorship aspect, which I didn't have that either, really. I mean, I worked for a couple of firms, but like actually someone telling me like, if you want to go out on your own, here is how to have a business. That didn't exist. So I think I just love that you're doing that. And I think the psychology bent is an interesting viewpoint. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Kudos
There's
to
so
you.
much there. Yeah. There's so much there in psychology world. And I think that's what I'm navigating. But as you know, like the workshops we've done together, the conflict management and room is packed, people are excited. And what does that tell us? It tells us that our business is help. We're all like, holy shit, we have all this conflict and this is super complicated business because as we were discussing it, it's not just like, oh, today we're going to work and we're like, you're not just a designer.
Mm-mm.
You are, you're doing drawings, you're doing selections, you're doing finish schedules, you're doing specifications, you're doing client management. You're, you're wearing so many hats. And then if you add in business owner, that's a whole different level, and it's super complicated. You need help.
What's been the biggest surprise or lesson you've learned from guiding other business owners? Like, what surprised you with them running their businesses?
Fear,
Huh.
Hmm. Just the
fear.
uncertainty of the future? Or?
I think all encompassing, meaning people are afraid to make decisions because
Yeah.
they'll upset somebody, they won't make enough money, they'll lose that client, the whatever, fear. I
Hmm.
think we go sideways, especially when we're just starting out in younger businesses, because there has to be a certain level of you're going to take a couple jobs that probably aren't what you want because you need something and
A couple dozen.
a couple dozen. Yes. Like I recently talked to a designer who was really upset because she was like, I think I'm going to have to take a part-time job to get pay my bills because
Hmm.
the design business isn't taking out the stuff that I want. And I was like, well, do it. There's no shame in that. You got to pay the bills. Like if your dream and your vision is to get your business off the ground and this is what you have to do for this season of your life, and do it by all means. I mean, great fight. We all did. Like anybody with a successful business had to do, right? Like you had to have some moments. Hey, this is not as easy as I thought. And, and there's struggle involved in there and that's okay. But the fear part is tricky because it kind of creeps into all different aspects of running the business, from the sales side to, financial decisions to hiring your team to, going out on a limb on a design decision, showing something crazy. There's fear embedded in so much what we do. And if we can kind of take that down a notch and get control of that internally to be able to have the confidence to speak up and risk things in a smart way, and if we can get past that fear, it's really going to help to elevate us as designers and business owners in the industry. Just put fear aside. No fear.
We
I
talk about
know, and that sounds it sounds simple, right? But I tell my kids, I have 13-year-old twin girls, and I tell them when they're worried about something, I say, action beats anxiety. So if you're anxious about something, there's probably an action you can take that's going to make you feel more prepared to tackle that thing that's making you scared.
That's right.
Um, so I don't know if that works in the same situation, but I almost feel like the fear can be crippling. Like it'll just stop you in your
it's
tracks.
paralyzing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we talk about this a lot is the risk. I think as a business owner, in order to be successful, you have to get comfortable with taking a risk.
Yeah, and
That's
that's the thing. Like as business owners, I'm 100% sure that you will agree with what I'm going to say is that sometimes you just have to like throw five things against the wall and okay, that worked. Like you have to try.
And just
Sometimes you just
make whatever, yeah, you've got to make a decision.
yes. Yeah, make a decision, move forward. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then you just pivot and you do something like you switch gears. But I think getting stuck in like it has to be this way, it has to be this path is very crippling. And
mm,
to be able to just know that you're going to make some decisions that aren't going to work as you're learning and growing. And then you're going to learn from that. You're going to be a smarter, better designer, business owner, partner, team member, all the things. Um, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, tried that. Didn't work. Let's move on. And, you know, we don't want you to learn all the lessons the hard way. That's why we're here, right? To hopefully help some of those. But the fear is really, it's really something.
Hmm.
I
I
think that
got
it's
some
also what our community, since we both have communities, that's what's been really helpful. Exactly what you're saying is you don't necessarily, I mean, there are some mistakes I think that you just have to make in order to learn from them and in order
Mhm.
to be better. But I think that the great thing about a community is you get to learn from other people's mistakes without getting to make them. And I think that it also can give you that kind of confidence to see, oh, wow, this person had huge failures that like I'm afraid of and now they're fine, and they're
Yes.
doing great.
I mean,
So,
there's so many celebrity stories like that too.
yeah.
And I think I had one of those fear things about budgets with clients of like
Oh, sure.
designing over a budget or, not staying in because I've had clients where I'm like, I'll just show them a little bit more and they freak out like, absolutely not. Why did you do that? And fair, right? Like they gave me a budget. Um, and then I just learned a little trick of just asking them beforehand, like, do you want to look at anything outside of your budget? Yes or no? And then once they say yes, then like, great. Okay. Now I can show you all the things. And then you can dial back whatever you want to dial back. You know what happens? They don't dial it back.
No, but you're giving them the control because they
Giving
have
them the
that decision-making ability. We do something similar and I actually did not solve this problem for myself. It was one of our senior designers that did it because she can sell, oh my gosh, the highest end product you've ever seen. And so once she started doing it, I'm just going to show it to them. Okay, fine. Good luck, whatever. And she did it. And so now we do what we call like the dream scheme and we give our clients that option. Do you want to see what we would do? Or do you want us to stick within this budget, which we can? Like, we're going to do our best job for you and show you exactly how we would deploy this budget. Or we can show you like dream scheme and then you can decide what you want to dial back or not. And they love that because it gives them the
of it.
control and they get to see like big ideas.
Yes, they love it. And for me, that was like a total game changer of just like, okay, took all that fear away. I
Yep.
don't about it because we do want to show them the dream.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they hired us.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like the fear thing for me. What fear? I don't know. Do I have fear? Probably. I mean, yeah, I definitely had like the day before I opened my firm, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? What am I thinking? Then I'm just like, that's that 3 a.m. fear, which
Yes.
everyone
Yeah.
has that 3 a.m. fear. Um,
Beats you up.
I don't know, but I think now I'm just like, it's going to shake out one way or another. If I can make the informed decision, not just random, informed decision and move forward, it's going to shake out. I don't know. We play this thing out to or I have with Melissa. I'm like, what's worst case scenario? What's best case scenario? If I can visualize both, I think I can realize like worst case scenario isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
My
can
fear just
course
helps
correct
shake it out.
before it's terrible.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And, the old saying is true, no risk, no reward. So you really do have to learn to get a little bit comfortable, like, taking that step, taking the risk, and, move yourself forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you started mentoring designers, I'm assuming you're giving advice to them. What is one piece of advice that you gave to another designer that you realized you needed to hear yourself?
It's probably still about fear. Uh,
We're really scared around here.
I mean, I think it's like that just stems from like confidence. And, I started my design business in probably a way I would not recommend, which is like, I didn't really have much experience. I was just a single mom. I had two babies. I wanted my own schedule so I could, take care of my kids. And so I think I had, like, at first there was a lot of just figuring it out, like really, really the hard way. So then that time I was always like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. Is this good or bad or whatever? But as time went on, obviously, and with experience and mentors, I learned and grow and, became more confident. But confidence, if you have it or not, fake it till you make it, being able to have conversations. And then one I think that we talked about together was the money talk, right? So to be able to talk about money with clients, and that passive salt where let's have a money talk and we're spewing it, saying and getting it off the table because we're running a business to get paid. Money is an important factor in this transaction. So,
Kind
you
of
know,
like the same idea around the conflict management. It's deal in facts. Take out the emotion. Here's the actual facts in this
yes,
situation.
exactly. Yeah. And there's
Yeah.
all kinds of great stuff within conflict management and selling lecture about like listening skills and how you can improve how you hear and if you get information back and lots of great psychology tips in the needs of that of like really those active listening skills to be able to make sure you heard correctly because you know there's people um, personally or professionally they say something and then turn in their brain.
Yeah.
Or, well, no, wait. So, taking some of those listening skills, practice, sure that,
Yeah, we actually just talked about listening as
yep,
a group learning situation at the studio because we felt like there were just some communication missteps as they often happen, but they started to create what looks like a pattern of not listening or not actively listening well. And I admit all the time I'm not a great listener. My husband is an excellent listener, and so comparing myself to him, like, wow, I am really really bad at this. Like, why am I just so self-absorbed? What's wrong with me? But like, I'll hear things sometimes. You hear things the way that you want to hear them oftentimes.
yeah,
But in the design world, that can be, 2 inches and you're off and it's over, So it's just and I do think that I don't know if you have any, what am I trying to say? Like resources that people can go to for learning about listening. But I think that that is one of the number one things if we're talking about communication and transparency being so important, the first thing you have to start working on is your listening skills.
yes, the active listening. And sometimes people aren't good listeners, so to speak, because they are so worried about what they're going to say next
Sure.
or trying to forget what their thought pattern was or something like that. And it's really not about not caring. It's a focus thing and it takes practice. People aren't naturally good at listening. It is something that you do have to practice and take these skills about, paraphrasing and looking back and, let me just, I heard this and making sure that you're very clear on it and not just rushing through the conversations. But um, through our classes on the designer launch, the conflict management class, um, and the selling luxury class both have a whole big checklist of listening skills and
Mhm.
exercises and things that you can work on to kind of help improve that and help those.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I love that because I do a lot of what you just said, and Melissa's talked to our team about this too. And it's the paraphrasing or reflecting back what you feel like you're hearing to confirm that that is in fact the intent behind what your client or builder or you know subcontractor whoever was saying. It's a really that's something that's simple to do, I think, too, is just like reflect back, repeat.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely like the highest used, most common method is to, okay, I heard this. Correct? Good.
Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's really the first thing that we talk to our designers that are new to the firm. We talk to them about that because I think it's important because the way we interpret something may be completely different than what your client was intending or builder was intending.
Yes. Well, we have
Um,
design presentations too. Like, we'll get feedback and then we'll be working on a couple revisions. And even the designer and myself will be like, no, it was this or said this.
yeah,
Yeah.
same,
Yeah.
same. What also I find helpful too, and our design team does this, is when we are finalizing a presentation, we go back to the beginning and pull up the project notes. Anything a client has said, and we read through those notes with our design in front of us, and we're like, okay, did we pick up everything? Are we catching everything? Did we remember that she likes cerulean, but only in this situation? Because we want to make sure that we're showing that. So I think like write it down is important too. I have a
Exactly.
horrible memory.
Yeah. Do you do that at the very end, like but right before presentation or like partway through?
No, we'll do I mean, it depends on how big the presentation is. I think, if it's a huge presentation, we should probably revisit it at midpoint. We do a midpoint review. But if it's not huge, probably like a week before the final presentation, just to make sure that we're incorporating everything. And if there's something we've forgotten, there's still time for us to put it in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so this is like a big picture question. but I feel like that you go to a lot of different markets. You're at High Point, you just mentioned Atlanta, so you're kind of all over the place with the beat of the industry. So if you could predict a major shift, and maybe even minor, doesn't have to be major, in this industry in the next 5 years or so, what do you think it would be? Like, what should we be prepared for? I feel like
Well,
everything's changing so quick.
it is changing so quick. And I think the biggest thing that's on everyone's mind is AI and how we navigate it and what part does that play, with what's happening with consumers looking at AI and thinking AI can sign. So I think education about what's happening around that in terms of how we can clients, what our involvement is and how we navigate AI within our design. So just trying to figure out how we incorporate that into our business and um, and communicate to clients that the designer is still the one that has to execute this very complicated project. And even though AI is a great tool that in a consumer's mind may bring some design fees down because, well, AI can do it, it's not reality, right? So
Not yet.
not
Yeah.
yet. Not yet. And again, I mean, it's going to have to come a long way for us to get to the point of AI executing the plan, but maybe it's around the corner again. So it's probably the biggest change that we have to work on and navigate through. And change is hard. And so there's a lot of psychology behind changing and pivoting and how you handle that. And one of them is what we talked about earlier, which is making quick decisions. So you can make quick decisions going to help you navigate change better. So if there's change happening, whether it's AI, whether it's tariffs, whether it's whatever else is coming our way, to be able to take the information, make a decision for our businesses or our clients, and move on quickly helps to navigate that change better and for everyone. Don't want to get stuck in.
Yeah. Rumination is not going to help. It's what are the facts? Decision making.
What are the facts? Move on. Facts today, because your facts might be different, tomorrow or
But
next
yeah, that's true.
week and all of that. But we can only do what we can do right now. We don't
That's
know
true.
what's around the
With the
corner.
information that we have.
Yeah. And that's why it's so complicated because it's constantly changing.
It is.
Faster.
Melissa, before I go into my rapid fire, any wrap up questions?
No, I do really think that's important. We talk a little bit about AI, but I was reading the other day about art galleries and how art galleries are doing really poorly because people just want to go direct. Like, well, I don't want to have to deal with the middleman or to deal with what they might see as being like an elitist gatekeeper, right?
Mm.
To just get art. And I think that might be it's not a fear necessarily, but I think something that we should anticipate over the next 5 years is that AI can facilitate that direct connection to at least buying furniture almost like
Mm.
today. Um,
Yes. I think an important point to note, which is kind of one of my sticking points, you probably heard me say it in High Point, is that interior design is inherently a luxury business.
yeah.
And making sure that we're staying true to that and we're not going to dive into AI or any other model or source that comes up to kind of like downplay what we do. And that our role as interior designers, whatever you're selling, is that we're providing high level luxury service for a discerning client who's looking for that. And there's a lot of noise below that, right? There's a lot of things swirling and happening as how do I get it cheaper, better, quicker, whatever. But the reality is we still don't have that high level luxury service that's holding their hand and walking them through the project and making sure it's exactly what they want and how they want it.
Yeah.
And having
So
that person in the pit of despair with you when you need them.
yeah, most importantly.
I mean, maybe an AI chat agent could walk you through that pit of despair, but I don't know.
It shouldn't. It really shouldn't.
They really shouldn't.
But yeah, I'm all about like maintaining this, we're a luxury service.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. This is interior design. Like I grew up without the internet. So interior design was very elusive. It was very high end and very special. And I believe that it needs to remain that way. And it should. Like that's what it is. By
Yeah,
definition, it's a luxury service.
That's a really strong perspective because there are so many people in the industry or industry adjacent that would argue that point.
I know.
But I mean, we focus on the high end. We focus on luxury design. So I support your view. And I also think if you're building a firm for profitability and for freedom, personal freedom, that niching and working in the high end as a luxury interior designer, guiding your client is the place to be. I mean, that's what I've built. That's what you've built. And I think that's what's like made our careers successful, knock on wood.
Right.
But I agree with you, but I think I'd love to hear arguments to the contrary. From anyone that's listening, please reach out because I know that there are arguments to the contrary, that people want this to be more of a
Attainable.
I don't know, maybe I'm attainable. And I've even tried in my career, tried to make it that way and not successfully. We launched another version of our firm called Studio U that was more of like, hey, we're going to work in the middle market. Come on in, we'll answer your design questions. That did not work. It did not work for me. Maybe it's working for someone else. So I'd love to hear from you if it is. But I agree with you. I think it's that guided service that we're in the trenches with you, but we're also creating something extremely beautiful and special. I think
Right.
that's spot on.
I do believe you can do that at all levels too, though. I just feel like it's a mindset and a communication tool and a message that should be consistent in our industry. If we're calling ourselves interior designers, this is what an interior designer is. This is what we do as a global picture. And if you're not doing that, then you're something different. You know, you're whatever other name you want to call it.
Wrong statement. Oh my God. That's a whole other episode we'll come back to.
I know. Tread light.
Wow. You're blowing my mind right now. It's something different. That's a whole different profession. Huh. Melissa, what do you think about that?
You just asked me for my final thing. I was going to give my final thing. I agree with Tracee. I do think that there is, I mean, obviously emerging technologies are going to change every industry, especially with AI.
Right.
And I think that then there's going to be the differentiation. There's going to be people who want to protect the art of the craft of design. And then it becomes a luxury, almost exclusionary sort of good. And I think that's okay because there will
Which it already is. Yeah.
Right. There will also emerge something that's very inclusive and approachable, and those options exist also. So I do think, Tracee, you're right. There will be this third thing or this new kind of designer that will emerge, and that might happen in the next 5 years.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's where the industry's going. You heard it here.
Heard it here first.
Third type. All right. Rapid fire. And we're going to wrap it up. Coffee or cocktails?
Oh, cocktails.
Ooh. Okay. What kind?
Margarita is always my first choice.
All right. Beach house or mountain retreat?
Beach house.
I know. That's an obvious question. I mean, for me, mountain retreat. Also,
I mean, I'd like both, but
let's just do all. And a city pied-à-terre while we're at it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, one design item you would never part with no matter what.
Do you mean a tool?
You can take that however you want.
Paint deck. I mean,
that's a good one. All right, paint deck. That's it. Thanks so much for joining us. Oh, and then if our listeners want to track you down so they can learn about selling the luxury mindset or the psychology of conflict, where are they going?
All things psychology and design are found at thedesignerlaunch.com. And on Instagram, it's the Designer Launch. Very simple. So come find us.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining us, Tracee. This has been fun.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast, coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.